Thank you for tuning in to the best parenting show on the internet, Post Daily Dose.
It's the Post. It's the Post. It's the Post. The Post Daily Dose. It's the Post. It's the Post. It's the Post. The Post Daily Dose. It's the Post. It's the Post.
Hey guys, hope everybody's doing well. Happy wonderful Wednesday. This is Kristi, Saul, the co-founder of the Post+Institute, coming at you live for a little Post Daily Dose. Big Papa is taking a hiatus. He's taking a little week vacation, which I'm very glad for. I think he needed a nice little break. Hey Mimi, how's it going? So anybody else who's watching, feel free to say hello. So I decided I would just do a quick little dose today and let you guys who are regular followers know what's up, because we've not been on Post Daily Dose all week. So Brian's taking a little vacation, and Marley and I actually are on the road because she is taking driver's ed, which is so awesome. So for those of you who don't know, my daughter Marley is mobile by wheelchair. Hey Suzanne, hey Tracy, nice to see you guys. And so we had to travel away from home and we're staying in a hotel, and she's doing a driver's ed boot camp because there's only one company in the state that I live in that has a vehicle that is wheelchair accessible with hand controls. So she's getting a little driver's ed boot camp, and you know, since I'm outside and she can't hear me, I am just gonna brag a little, mom brag, because she took her permit test today and she passed it. So yay, she is moving towards independence, and it's pretty exciting. You know, of course, a little scary, a little exciting, a little scary, a little exciting. So anyway, today I wanted to come on and talk just a little bit about advocating for your children. So there's an example. Boy, I'll tell you, initially when I first started looking into what it was going to take to help Marley have driver's education, just finding the resources was sort of like finding a needle in a haystack. And I just happened to, by chance, call the right place and talk to the right woman, and she gave me a list. She's like, okay, so I've been working for this organization for 30 years, so I'm going to tell you everything I know. And so I got my notebook out and I made a whole list. Hey Ashley, a whole list of people that, you know, it's like when you find that person who knows something about something, you just want to like find out everything you can. And I'll tell you, I know sometimes when you are looking for solutions for your children who have unique needs, it is, gosh, the amount of research that you can put into it, the amount of time that you can put into it. And you know, the internet helps and it's wonderful. You can Google and search and find things, and that's great, but it's not everything. You know, especially when you're dealing with like state agencies and things like that, where phone numbers and, you know, people who were in positions or not in positions, and especially now with COVID, a lot of people in their state agencies aren't even in their offices. And so, you know, trying to accomplish those things, I just want to take a big breath is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to take a big breath because it's a big deal. It's a big deal, and I know you guys work really hard, and so I just want to, you know, parent to parent, let you know that I know that that is something that you guys often spend a lot of time, a lot of energy doing, and I appreciate that. I value you for it. I get it. I understand it. I also understand sometimes it's so frustrating. You know, I've said it before. You know, you think of like the bell curve, right? And so the bell curve really applies to all aspects of life. So you could have a unique need that has to do with your mental health. You could have a unique need related to your physical health. You could have a unique learning need. You know, so we've got this bell curve, and if you're at either end of the spectrum, then it can be very difficult to get your needs met. It's like the world's just not prepared if you're an outlier. And that's the research term. When you don't fit into the bell curve, you're an outlier. So whether it's because you're gifted and talented, or whether it's because you have a learning disability, whether it's because you are the most prolific athlete and you can, run a sprint in whatever an incredible short amount of time is, or if you are mobile by wheelchair, if you're an outlier, it's like the world's just not very prepared to meet your needs, and you have to, if you're a parent, you have to work extra hard to figure out what's out there for your kids, and find a way to crack the code to get those needs met. So I've been talking to a lot of families about school on that same avenue, and I know Brian's talked to some about school, and I know he talked about, just that there's going to be an elevated level of anxiety with COVID. If your state, no matter, if you're doing like a hybrid, most states are doing, you can come in person, you can do a hybrid where it's a mixed schedule, you can do all of your education online. They're really, what I see in that is just really empowering parents to try to make whatever decision is best for your child and also for your family. Easier said than done, because you could be an essential employee who would really love to be home with your child, but your work schedule won't permit it. You could be all in your heart saying, I don't even want to send my kid to school, I feel like it's dangerous, but I have the kind of job that requires me to be at work, and that's a really tough place to be. I also know lots of parents who are also teachers who have to teach online and also try to figure out how to take care of their 3 or 4 kids who are at home and making sure they're taking care of their education. So this is tricky business, and it's tough. I feel like one of the most important things that you can do is to trust what you know about your child. Trust what you know about your child. You are the expert on your child. Sometimes you might forget that. Sometimes you might get really stressed out. And in that space of being really stressed out, you may feel like, I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't know. But in reality, if you can just, bring it down a notch, maybe after everybody's in bed or before everybody gets up, just spend some quiet time trusting what you know about your child. And as we're talking about school coming back into session, to start writing things down that you notice, writing things like their quirks, things that you just think of as quirks, or it could even be things that you find to be challenging behaviors. Start writing those down and think about how that might look in the school system, or if they've been to school in the past, what were the challenges? Go ahead and write them out and start thinking about what could be solutions. Now, I will tell you, well, I'm just going to digress for a minute because I read the story today online. I'll probably post a link in the comments. It's about a little boy who's 8 years old, and last year he was arrested at school because he hit a teacher. So I'm like, oh wow, I know that is, it's a thing that happens in school. I don't like teachers being hit. I don't like anybody being hit. I sure don't like an 8-year-old kid being arrested either. So as I read through the story, I was like, oh, look at this. Brian always says things are predictable, doesn't he? Challenging behaviors are predictable if you pause and you look at the Z is the behavior. We got the whole alphabet ahead of that, right? So you start looking at the whole alphabet and see what happened. So in this one particular story, and that's right, in this one particular story, the situation was that there was like a substitute fill-in teacher who was helping manage the kids in the classroom, and this little boy was having a hard time sitting like he's supposed to, and she verbally redirected him several times, and he did not comply. So she began to approach him, and he's like, do not put your hands on me, blah, 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 blah. And then before any hands were put on anybody, he struck her. Well, he's also a child who's on an IEP, and this teacher did not know he had special needs. So, you just go, that's like the equation. That's where the failure happened, isn't it? That, in this situation, had the teacher known, had she been informed, then she may have been able to address this very differently. Or maybe this kid doesn't even need to be having lunch in the cafeteria. Maybe it's too stimulating. Maybe it's too overwhelming. The first diagnosis that was listed in the article was attention deficit disorder. Now, you know me, I'm going to be like, yeah, well, it could be ADHD, or maybe he has a history of trauma, and maybe he's hypervigilant. I don't know. But what I will tell you is, for kids who have challenge, for all kids for all kids, there are certain parts of school that are more challenging than others. For our kids who have sensitive amygdalas, who are stress sensitive, the areas of school that are most predictable for having challenges are that time before school when the kids gather, right? So they may be gathering on the playground, they may be gathering in the cafeteria, but almost all schools nowadays have this thing where everybody gets to school early, the teachers get to go to their classrooms and do their thing, and all of the kids gather before they go to the class. Well, that's all the kids and very few adults. So bada bing, bada, well, let's even back up, because the bus, if they are bus riders, well, there you have it again. We have a whole bunch of kids with very little adult supervision. In fact, usually you have one bus driver who's supposed to keep all these kids safe. So you know, for our kids who are very stress sensitive, who are easily stimulated, easily triggered, that's just going to be a challenge. That's just not going to be a good setup. Then the first thing they do after this bus ride is they go into this cafeteria full of a whole bunch of other kids. That's not going to be a winner. Okay, so then we have the classroom. Well, you know, there's all kinds of different things that could be challenging in the classroom, without a doubt. One thing I can tell you is when you look at classroom behavior management, you've got like stickers and stars and red light, green light stuff. And, you know, like you're on the green at the beginning of the day and you want to try to stay green all day, or you might get a yellow light or a red light. Point systems, clipping down, all of that is some form of behavior modification plan to try to encourage, coerce, bribe children into having what is considered appropriate behavior for the classroom. So for many of our kids, they'll hear that, they'll be sitting there and the teacher's going to be explaining all of that, and when they hear prize from the treasure chest, that's all they hear. That's the last thing they heard. And in their heads, they're already winning the prize. They're like king of the universe. And pop, there goes the behavior. The very behavior that we were trying to prevent gets activated, because some of our kids they have a very difficult time handling that amount of excitement. It's like their bodies don't, the neurological experience of fear and excitement are all sort of on that same vibrational pattern. And so sometimes we unwittingly set up situations and scenarios that actually create the very behavior that we're trying to eliminate or avoid. So the next areas where you know kids are going to struggle is the hallway, and then the bathroom, and then recess, and the cafeteria, especially if your children have any issues around deprivation or neglect, food issues. And then you layer on top of it how loud the cafeteria is, how much activity is going on in the cafeteria. It's definitely a hot pocket for challenging behaviors. And then, let's see, specials. Those, you know, like art, music, PE, those things that for many are fun, it's just not fun for our kids. They just get overstimulated and overwhelmed. Oh, Millie Davis is watching. Millie was one of our teachers back when we had the Post Academy in Virginia, and Millie is a brilliant educator. She is a brilliant educator for kids who have very, very difficult needs. Man, it's good to see you. So one of the things that I have found to be helpful in advocating for my own child, but also for other kids, is writing a letter. And so the letter may not even be something that you deliver, but it helps you to get your thoughts organized. A lot of times when we go into an IEP meeting or a 504 meeting, it gets so overwhelming. There's so much coming at us, so many questions, or so many, maybe even so many misunderstandings. I know, my daughter's IEPs. Oh my God, if we were on this in public, I could just tell y'all so many stories about just lack of knowledge. You know, teachers are just like everybody else. All they know is what they know. You know, they don't know everything. And they don't know everything about every medical issue. And they don't know everything about every special need. So we need to give them a ton of grace. First of all, give them a ton of grace. And also to us, give ourselves a ton of grace. And sometimes we have to do some educating. And sometimes we will hear teachers say things out of their lack of understanding, that really hurt our hearts because we love our kids so much. And when our kids are misunderstood, sometimes we just want to come out fighting. We just want to come out fighting. And there's a lot of stories about feeling like schools don't really want to provide the services that are written up on an IEP, and all these sort of adversarial types of language and relationships. And I know that happens. I know a lot of times that happens in school districts. Well, I guess, it can happen in any school district, and it can happen for a lot of different reasons. I have found it the most helpful, though, when I go into an IEP meeting, and this is after trial and error. So I'm just going to confess, it's not always been like this, but when I go into an IEP meeting, I have as much information as I can, and even links and things like that I can direct them to learn about the specific health conditions that my daughter experiences. And then I have a list of things that are her strengths and things that are her weakness and things that we have found in the past that have proven effective. And that seems to be a really good starting point, and I find it better if I write those things down. I also find it really helpful that when I start to get stressed, to just simply take a deep breath and say, I'm beginning to get really stressed. This is I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling threatened. I'm not feeling secure about your plan, about how you're going to meet these needs. And you're asking me just to trust that it's all going to work out. But I'm feeling really anxious. So, and then whatever you need, if it's, can we come back and meet about this again? Can we get some things in writing? Can we write it in a way that's a little more broad or a little more specific, or whatever it is that you just encourage you to continue to communicate so that the needs of your child can be met. And then oftentimes teachers, they get in there in the classroom, the school year gets going on, they start doing however they do, and sometimes the things that are on the IEP are not being taken care of, and we have to pull them back in and say, look, or sometimes it's us, right? Sometimes we get going on about life and we're not doing our parental part of what we said we would do on the IEP, and then the teachers or the school has to pull us back in and say, hey, this is what we need to do. The thing is it's a process, and most of the time, the school system really is interested in the success of your child. There are, just like everything else that we've been seeing over this last year, with Black Lives Matter and police brutality, there are some people in that profession who are not. There are some police officers who misuse their power, but there are more good police officers than not. There are more good teachers who are truly invested in your child's success than not. So I also want to encourage you, there's some great books that you can share and that you can pick up. Heather Forbes has a fabulous, extensive book about education. I think it's called titled Educating Billy. If you guys don't know, Brian and Heather have been co-authors in the past. They have very similar lines of thought. Her book is phenomenal. On our website, I also have a podcast with her that I did last year, I believe, might have been the year before. There's also a couple of other back to school podcasts that are just really, really good. So I encourage you guys to take a look at those. The most important thing, though, is just to trust what you know about your child and to slow down and realize you know quite a bit. So much love to you guys. We'll have a lot more to talk about as we get closer to school beginning. I know it's chaotic right now. Everybody's trying to make decisions, and just as soon as you think you made a decision, then the options change. I know everybody's concerned about the health and well-being of their children, but also of their extended family. And it's every family is having to make very, very difficult decisions. And so I also want to encourage you guys just to be graceful to one another through this process. That when your friends show back to school pics, to just love on, this is our chance to just love on babies. We don't need to be critical about what their decision is. We don't need to be critical about masking or not masking when we see those pictures. We just need to be cheering those kids on for all that we're worth. So Much love to you guys. Take care, take care. And I don't know, I might have a chance to hop on later this week, but it might be next week when Brian's back. So thanks for sticking with us, and thanks for understanding and letting us take care of our needs and our kids' needs. We really appreciate you all. Much love.